Hello, Mr. Hardy here, and in this video I would like to teach you about the persuasive writing technique called alliteration. So I use an acronym called DAFOREST to teach my students a variety of persuasive writing techniques, and under A you will find two techniques, alliteration and anecdote. This video is going to focus on alliteration. Now, what is alliteration? I've actually got another video all about how to use alliteration for creative writing in my creative writing techniques playlist. So if you want to check that out, you can go and take a look on my channel. But for persuasive writing, what is alliteration? Well, alliteration is when a series of words begin with the same sound or letter. Now, when a lot of people are taught alliteration, they're taught that it's the same letter that must be repeated, but actually you can do it with the same sound. For example, the letter C and the letter K can both produce the k sound, and that way it will also alliterate. I haven't been specific with when I've said a series of words. This is because alliteration can happen within a clause, so within a section of a sentence, within the sentence as a whole, or even within a larger piece of writing, such as within a paragraph or within a topic within a bit of writing. So let's take a look at some examples of what would be considered alliteration. Littering is devastating, detrimental and damaging to the environment. So what I've done here is I've used a triple, which is actually another persuasive writing technique. I've used a triple of alliteration, and I've alliterated the letter D, or the D sound. And that's really highlighting the extent of negative impact littering has on the environment. Another example could be if I was trying to sell a knife, I could say buying this cool knife could elevate your culinary skills in the kitchen. Now, as you'll notice, cool knife, culinary kitchen, some begin with the letter C, some begin with the letter K, but they're both producing the k sound that gets repeated, and as a result you can consider it alliteration within this sentence. So, can you spot the alliteration in this letter that I have written? Dear local councillor, I'm writing to you today to address the unprecedented and unacceptable amounts of litter in our town centre. From bottles to bags, and from wrappers to waste, our high street is teeming with rubbish. Recently, I took my friend out to lunch, and she was appalled when she saw a rat scuttling across the street, etc., etc. Now, before we pick out the alliteration used, I want to show you that I'm using the direct address that I mentioned in my previous video, which is the D of DAFOREST. My letter starts with I am writing to you. The use of the pronoun you is direct address, and it directly engages the local councillor who I'm writing to. I also want to say at the end of this extract, recently I took my friend out to lunch and she was appalled when she saw a rat scuttling across the street, is an example of a personal story, and we call that an anecdote. That's the second A in DAFOREST, and I will make a video about that next. Okay, so here was the alliteration. Unprecedented, unacceptable, both begin with the letter U, or the sound. We've got bottles and bags with the B sound, wrappers to waste with the W sound. All of those are examples of alliteration, and alliteration really draws the reader's attention to the words that are being used, because in our normal everyday speech we don't alliterate, at least most people don't. So when you read it in writing or you hear it in a speech, you know that someone's put it there on purpose to grab your attention and to make you focus on that little bit of the writing or the speech, because clearly there's something important, an important message that they're trying to get across at that point. So here are some tips for how to do alliteration well in your persuasive writing. Firstly, remember that you can alliterate sounds, not just letters. A good example would be the letters C and K can both produce the k sound, so you can alliterate with both the letters C and K, and it still counts as alliteration. Try using a triple of alliteration. That way you can pick up a couple of marks. You can pick up a mark for using alliteration, which is a persuasive writing technique, and you can pick up a mark for using a triple, which is also a persuasive writing technique. For example, the weather today is warm, windy and wild. Three adjectives in a row, all beginning with the same starting letter or sound, W. Bear in mind, alliteration only counts when the content words alliterate, not the function words. Now, a quick reminder, a content word is a word with meaning. You could imagine it. If I say red, you could imagine the colour red. If I say ball, you could imagine a ball. If I say red ball, you can imagine a red ball. So red and ball are content words. They have meaning. You can imagine it. Function words are grammatical words. Words like the or a or an. If I say the, I'm not sure what you're imagining, but I'm not imagining anything. If I say a or an, there's no image associated with it. It's not a thing. It has no meaning. It just helps us function and form sentences. So for example, the trees would not count as alliteration. Even though the and trees both begin with the letter T or the T sound, the is a word with no meaning. If you wrote the tall trees that tower over, if you had more words beginning with T that were not function words, that were content words, then that would be alliteration. The same is true with an alligator. If I say alligator, you can imagine what one of those looks like. That's a content word. If I say an, you don't know what an an looks like. Therefore, it's a function word. It doesn't count. If you, however, wrote an angry alligator, that would count as alliteration because you've got angry and alligator. You've got two function words that both begin with the letter A or that A sound. So bear that in mind when you're writing. Function words do not count for alliteration, only content words. So what can you do to practice alliteration in your persuasive writing? Well, I've got two tasks for you, and for each task I want you to produce one paragraph, so 2 paragraphs in total. Task 1 is to write the opening of a letter to your local council, a bit like I did, Dear Local Councillor, and I want you to ask them to change something. You could ask them for a skate park in town. You could ask them for more bins to pick up litter, like I was doing. You could ask them for a bicycle path so cyclists can move around town safely. I want you to request something in your letter, persuade the councillor to invest the council's money into your thing, your idea, and in order to persuade them, I'd like you to use alliteration to explain how good your idea will be for the local town. Task 2 would be to write the opening of a radio advert. So because it's on the radio, no one's going to see it. So your words are very important here. And you need to sell a product of your choosing. So a bit like what I did with my knife, selling a knife. These cool knives can improve your culinary skills in the kitchen. I'm using lots of k sounds, C's and K's, to draw the listener's attention in and really sell my product, which was some kind of kitchen knife. You can pick any product that you like and use alliteration to draw the listener's attention to your product whilst explaining all the benefits it has and persuading them to buy your product. So if you found this video useful, please give it a like. Please subscribe to my Mr. Hardy YouTube channel for the rest of my persuasive writing technique videos, and feel free to leave a comment, maybe with an example of alliteration in it for me to take a look at. Well, thank you for your attention, and I'll see you on the next one.